So some of my more successful cases have been the Eric Schwenk case. He received 30 years in prison for child sexual abuse, and that was after jury trial. And what's interesting about that case is the first trial hung because there was a person in the jury who at the end of evidence said that she thought sexual abuse in children was an urban myth and she wouldn't convict anybody, so she was hiding in the jury panel. So we had to do that trial a second time. By the time we did it the second time, the victim was 18, and at the time of the allegation, he had been 8 years old. So it had gotten to be somewhat of a cold case by the time I had it. I was nevertheless successful at jury trial, and he was found guilty and sentenced to 30 years in prison. There's also the case of Mr. Muhammad, who committed domestic violence against a victim, and he groomed his victims. He found vulnerable victims. He found women with seizure disorders, for instance, so that they would have bruises and injuries that he could ascribe to their seizure disorder and claim were not him. I worked with this victim extensively, got her to the stand. She testified against him, and he received 25 years to life plus 8 years because it was his 7th and 8th strike conviction by the time he was found guilty of that jury trial. There was also the case of Rodney Donahue, who received 35 years for committing murder. That was a plea disposition because there were 2 other people with him at the time, and they were each blaming it on each other, but it is my firm conviction that Mr. Donahue himself committed the murder, and he did plead guilty and received 35 years in prison. There was a domestic violence case last year with a victim, Ashley Hermes, who had been brutally beaten and abused by her husband. He actually slashed her tires so that she couldn't leave before he committed the act of injuring her. She drove away on those slashed tires after he had hurt her and came to court, and she was initially very scared and had to be worked with quite a bit to get her to be comfortable with the system. That case did not go to jury trial because she was so convincing during the evidentiary hearings at the beginning, the pretrial hearings, that Mr. Hermes, her ex, realized that he was going to lose badly at jury trial and pled to all the charges, and he received 8 years in prison. Ashley today is a new woman. She was very scared at the time of when she was victimized. She had been victimized by this person for years, and he had beaten her down and broken her spirit. But she stood up for herself as a victim of crime. She stood up in her truth. She was brave. She took the stand and she told her story. And today she is a vibrant woman who has taken control of her life and is really a role model for other victims of domestic violence. So you can see that if you stand up for yourself and you believe in yourself and the system stands up for you and serves you, you can regain your life and more.